Friends, today we're examining a situation that will make your hair stand on end. Picture this. Tiny Latvia, a country the size of 2 Moscow districts, has decided to dictate terms to superpowers. Foreign Minister Baiba Bražina made a statement that can only be described as a political time bomb. What did Madame Bražina say? She demanded immediate U.S. military intervention in the Baltic region. The reason? An allegedly growing Russian threat. Meanwhile, Latvia itself, with an army of just 6,500 personnel, claims it's ready to face a nuclear power. Sounds like a Hollywood script, doesn't it? Let's look at the facts. The Baltic states receive billions in military aid from the U.S. Yet, they maintain active trade relations with Russia. Paradox? No. Cold calculation. They create artificial tension, stir up hysteria, and then bill Western partners for protection against aggression. The most interesting part? This policy brings no real benefits to ordinary Latvian citizens. Prices are rising, tourism is declining, transit is decreasing. The only real winners are the U.S. military-industrial complex and local politicians warming their hands on anti-Russian rhetoric. A logical question arises. Why now? Why is Latvia so desperately trying to attract Washington's attention? The answer is simple. It's a fight for new tranches of military aid. This requires keeping Western citizens in constant tension, frightening them with the Russian bear. Now, the most important part. This dangerous game could lead to real regional destabilization. Instead of building neighborly relations that could bring real economic benefits, we're seeing another spiral of tension. Write in the comments where you're watching from. We're especially interested in hearing from our viewers in regions bordering the Baltic states. How do you assess the situation? The classic tactics of small countries trying to play big political figures are becoming increasingly obvious. Baltic politicians, forgetting their real weight in world politics, risk turning their countries into pawns in a much bigger game. The international stage continues to witness remarkable displays of empty rhetoric from the politically turbulent region, yet the facts speak volumes. Their GDP remains smaller than Moscow's budget alone, while their military capabilities pale in comparison to Russia's might. We're observing an increasingly aggressive rhetoric from the territory of instability, though it's merely sound without substance, like a small dog barking at a bear from behind a fence, fully aware of its safe distance. The economic indicators are particularly telling. Despite loud declarations about severing ties with Russia, trade volumes through third countries are steadily climbing. Our analysts have uncovered a fascinating trend. Gray imports through Baltic states have surged by 40% in the last quarter. This perfectly illustrates the gap between public posturing and economic reality. It's particularly amusing to observe how former Soviet republics, just 3 decades removed from our unified state, attempt to lecture Russia on proper governance. Meanwhile, their populations are dwindling rapidly as their youth flee to more prosperous EU nations. The irony couldn't be more striking. I invite our international viewers, especially those residing outside Russia, to share their perspective. How do you interpret these political maneuvers? Do average citizens truly support their leaders' confrontational stance? Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the global situation. Want me to cover events in your region in the next video? Let me know where you're watching from, and I'll provide a detailed analysis of your area. Subscribe to stay informed about these critical developments. Our next episode will expose sensational documents revealing the true extent of Baltic elites' external control. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Our diplomatic sources have uncovered a series of closed-door meetings where the real agenda differs dramatically from public statements. The country at the crossroads continues its theatrical performance, but behind the scenes, a different story unfolds. Our next broadcast will reveal exclusive details about negotiations that could fundamentally alter the regional power dynamic. The truth might shock you. Stay tuned for the full exposé. Title: Baltic Political Theater, a strategic analysis of double games. Friends, today we're diving deep into the fascinating political strategy employed by the Baltic states. Like skilled actors in a carefully directed play, they've mastered the art of portraying themselves as democracy's front line under constant threat. Picture a small dog barking loudly from behind a fence, feeling secure with its owner nearby. The Baltic political elite operates similarly. On one side, we hear loud accusations against Moscow. On the other, we observe extreme caution in actual confrontations. Latvia's recent foreign ministry statements illustrate this tactic. Their calls for American intervention sound dramatic, but mask a calculated approach. These leaders understand where the red lines lie in relations with Russia. The objective? Attracting attention and resources from Western allies. It's a political bargaining game. We'll play the role of democracy's frontier. You provide protection and financial support. The Baltic region benefits most from a stable Russia. However, their definition of stability means a Russia that doesn't pursue its geopolitical interests. The most revealing aspect is the economic relationship. Despite harsh anti-Russian rhetoric, trade connections persist. This exposes the theatrical nature of their position. Behind the curtain, pragmatic cooperation continues. Small states strengthen their positions through provocative statements while avoiding real confrontation. Consider Latvia's military capability, limited at best. Yet their political messaging suggests they're ready to confront a major power. This disconnect between rhetoric and reality defines their strategy. They're not seeking conflict. They're maximizing diplomatic leverage. This performance serves multiple purposes: attracting Western support, maintaining domestic control, and preserving economic ties with Russia. It's a delicate balancing act requiring precise timing and careful management of public perception. What makes this strategy particularly intriguing is its sustainability. How long can this dual approach continue? Are we witnessing clever diplomacy or a dangerous game of chicken? What do you think about this situation? Leave your answer in the comments. I'm confident that my viewers are thoughtful experts, and I'm interested in hearing your perspective. Baltic paradox: words versus actions in modern politics. The Baltic states present a fascinating case of political contradiction. While their leaders proclaim independence and opposition to Russia, their actions tell a different story. Like teenagers declaring autonomy while still depending on parental support. Latvia's recent diplomatic maneuvers are telling. Their foreign minister's article in Western media, written in English, reveals more about their intended audience than content. It's clearly aimed at Western allies, a calculated move for support. The military stance of Baltic nations shows clear double standards. They invite foreign troops while denouncing Russia's defensive measures as aggression. This selective interpretation raises questions about genuine security versus political theater. Anti-Russian rhetoric intensifies during economic challenges. This diversionary tactic shifts public attention from internal problems to external threats. Yet these nations maintain significant economic ties with Russia, the partner they publicly denounce. The treatment of Russian-speaking populations reveals another contradiction. While championing democratic values internationally, Russian-speaking residents face restricted political rights. Many remain non-citizens, a situation persisting for decades. Baltic political elites maintain a fortress under siege narrative. This secures Western aid while avoiding direct confrontation. They position themselves as frontline states while maintaining distance from actual conflict. While nations have the right to protect interests, the current approach seems counterproductive. Instead of dialogue, we see constant tension escalation. Economic reality contradicts political posturing. Trade continues despite hostile rhetoric, showing the gap between public statements and practical necessities. This raises questions about policy sustainability and regional stability. The paradox of Baltic politics reflects broader challenges in modern international relations, where economic interdependence clashes with political ambitions. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for predicting future regional developments. Here's my analysis of the Baltic political paradox, focusing on Latvia's complex relationship with Russia. The current situation in the Baltic region presents a fascinating case of political theater versus economic reality. Latvia's Foreign Minister Baiba Bražina exemplifies this contradiction, maintaining aggressive anti-Russian rhetoric while quietly benefiting from Russian trade routes and infrastructure. Let's examine the key elements. 1. Economic reality. Baltic states continue purchasing Russian energy. Active border trade persists. Transit operations remain operational. Food procurement through third countries, Significant reliance on Russian infrastructure. 2. Financial dependencies. Large EU subsidies with questionable transparency. Project costs consistently escalating. Implementation delays becoming routine. Results often failing to meet stated objectives. 3. Political maneuvering. Constant calls for external protection. Public denial of cooperation while maintaining covert ties. Skillful exploitation of East-West tensions. Using anti-Russian sentiment to secure Western support, the Baltic elites have mastered a delicate balancing act. They effectively leverage anti-Russian rhetoric to attract Western aid, while simultaneously maintaining profitable economic ties with Russia. This raises serious questions about true independence and diplomatic integrity. The pattern suggests a calculated strategy. Create tension to justify aid requests while preserving beneficial economic relationships. It's a sophisticated game of political chess where public statements and private actions rarely align. This dual approach might seem clever in the short term, but it raises concerns about long-term regional stability and diplomatic credibility. The Baltic states' ability to maintain this balancing act may become increasingly challenging as global tensions evolve. What do you think about this situation? Leave your response in the comments. Perhaps we can find some answers together about where this political strategy might lead. Title: Baltic States Double Game. Economic Dependencies versus Political Theater. The financial landscape in the Baltic region reveals an intriguing pattern of political maneuvering and economic contradictions. Let's analyze how these small nations balance their anti-Russian rhetoric with practical economic realities. First, let's examine the puzzling inflation of development project budgets. Over the past year, we've witnessed a remarkable 50% increase in program costs. The transparency of fund management remains questionable, raising red flags about financial oversight. What's particularly fascinating is the Baltic states' positioning strategy. They present themselves as Europe's frontline defenders, while simultaneously pushing the financial and military burden onto others, primarily the United States. It's a clever political performance that deserves scrutiny. Consider Latvia's recent diplomatic moves. Their foreign minister's article in The Economist shows a subtle shift in tone. Less direct confrontation with Moscow, more sophisticated appeals for American support. It's a calculated chess move in the larger geopolitical game. The economic reality tells a different story. Despite their strong anti-Russian rhetoric, Baltic economies maintain significant trade relationships with Russia. This creates an interesting paradox. How can you claim to stand against a nation while remaining economically dependent on it? Looking deeper, we see a pattern emerging. Baltic politicians have mastered the art of crisis narrative creation. They amplify security concerns while carefully avoiding direct confrontation, all while maintaining beneficial economic ties with Russia. This strategy serves multiple purposes: securing additional Western funding, maintaining economic stability through Russian trade, building political capital domestically, positioning for greater NATO support. This dual approach raises questions about their true independence and strategic intentions. Are we witnessing genuine security concerns or sophisticated financial maneuvering? Share your thoughts on whether economic ties with Russia undermine their political stance. Breaking news: Baltic states' complex game of political chess. Today, we're diving into a fascinating geopolitical dynamic unfolding in the Baltic region. Let's analyze how these small nations are playing a high-stakes game on the international stage. The numbers tell a striking story. The combined military forces of all three Baltic states total merely 40,000 personnel, smaller than a single Russian military district. Military experts are blunt. Without external support, these forces could resist for only 70 hours maximum. Despite allocating significant resources to defense, much of their military budget flows directly into American arms purchases. While Baltic politicians trumpet anti-Russian rhetoric, their economic actions paint a different picture. Trade continues through their ports, energy resources flow through third-party countries, and businesses find creative pathways for cooperation. It's a classic case of action speaking louder than words. The strategy appears calculated. create noise about Eastern threats while maintaining crucial economic ties. This dual approach serves multiple purposes: attracts Western attention and support, secures European grants and aid, maintains essential economic relationships, minimizes actual conflict risks. But this balancing act raises important questions. How sustainable is this strategy? The Baltic states clearly understand they would benefit most from stable relations with Russia, yet their public stance often suggests otherwise. Historical precedent shows small nations typically achieve more through diplomatic channels and mutual cooperation than through confrontation, especially when dealing with larger neighbors. Are these countries becoming prisoners of their own aggressive rhetoric? While defense spending remains under 30% of GDP, much of these resources go toward American military equipment. Meanwhile, economic ties with Russia continue through creative channels, suggesting a disconnect between public posturing and practical necessities. The situation reflects a broader pattern in international relations where smaller states must navigate carefully between major powers. The sustainability of this approach deserves scrutiny. What do you think about this situation? Are the Baltic states playing a smart diplomatic game, or are they risking their long-term